You know how arguments are structured, and answering some of the most frequently tested question types in critical reasoning hinge on your ability to identify and then confirm or deny assumptions. Let's try this question together. And time's up. First, let's look at the question stem. This long phrase leaves no doubt that the question is a weakened question. Then, untangle the stimulus. Find a new fact which, if true, would make one of these authors' assumptions less likely to be true. It's hard to identify the conclusion with keywords this time, but the one-sentence test works well here. First, consider the tone of the stimulus. This author is angry about something. He's denouncing something. Consider what that is, specifically, that the author wants to stop. It has something to do with flags. The author thinks that it's unconscionable that prosecutors would try to stop businesses from flying enormous flags. The evidence, then, must be the last sentence. Legal technicalities shouldn't restrict patriotic expression. There's a tiny logical gap between prosecution and legal technicalities. It's possible that the prosecutors are not enforcing a mere technicality. The specific intent of this law may well have been to prevent businesses from flying huge flags. But the more significant logical gap is here, between flying huge flags and patriotic expression. The author assumes that patriotism is the reason why businesses are flying these garrison flags. To weaken that assumption, look for an answer choice that says that businesses are flying the flags for some reason other than patriotism. Let's go through the answer choices and find the one that fits. Answer choice A says that many people find the garrison flags' size to be distracting and ill-suited to neighborhood aesthetics. The statement in answer choice A has nothing to do with patriotism or the motives of the businesses that fly the flags, and on that basis alone, you can skip it and move on to the next answer choice. Answer choice B says the businesses are flying garrison flags primarily to attract customers. The word patriotism isn't mentioned here, but this statement is in scope because it has to do with the business's motivation. If they're mostly flying the flags to make money, then they presumably aren't using the flags to make patriotic statements. Answer choice B is a match for your prediction, and it is the correct answer. Briefly, answer choice C says the raising and lowering of different size flags on the correct days of the year is a laborious and time-consuming procedure. There's nothing here about patriotism or about the business's reasons for flying the flags, so answer choice C isn't what we need. Answer choice D states that the regulations that govern the correct display of the nation's flags are part of an old and time-honored tradition. That's all well and good, but it doesn't have much to do with our assumption, so strike this one out as well. And answer choice E, finally, says that the symbolic significance of a flag size is not understood by most of the consumers patronizing these businesses. This is perhaps the most tempting trap answer, but notice that it's talking about what the customers perceive rather than what the businesses intend. It doesn't matter if an attempt at patriotic expression is understood or misinterpreted. Your assumption is only about whether the businesses are motivated by patriotism. Answer choice E, therefore, is out of scope. On strengthen and weaken questions, as you've seen, one of the easiest ways to brush off wrong answers is by noting that they don't discuss the concepts that the assumptions deal with. Once you've decided that an answer choice is leaving out some idea that's central to the assumption, don't continue to study and ponder it. Just keep moving on until you find the right answer. Take a look at another example. At first, it's not as easy to identify what type of question this is. In particular, look at the word in capital letters, except. The phrase, cast doubt on, of course, means weaken. Because of the except, you know that 4 answer choices will weaken the author's argument. One of them will not, and that's the correct answer. Now, here's where a number of test takers run into trouble. The fact that the right answer is not a weakener does not necessarily mean that it's a strengthener. A strengthener would be fine, but there's no requirement that the correct answer strengthen the argument. You only need an answer choice that is not a weakener. We've already analyzed the question stem, so let's start our review with step 2 of the Kaplan method and untangle the argument. The second sentence opens with the phrase, "This has been demonstrated by." That phrase says, essentially, evidence is coming. Thus, the first sentence, the only other sentence in the stimulus, is the conclusion. The conclusion is that developing the actor's craft is essential to an actor's artistic success. And the evidence, in a nutshell, is that people who take a lot of acting classes also appear in a lot of productions. There are two scope shifts here. First, artistic success is mentioned in the conclusion. It's not mentioned anywhere in the evidence. The author assumes that you can judge an actor's artistic success simply from the number of productions he or she has been in. The conclusion also talks about developing an actor's craft. The evidence never explicitly discusses that concept, but the author appears to assume that taking a lot of acting classes is a good way to develop craft. So, 4 incorrect answer choices, 4 weakeners, will do one of two things. Suggest that artistic success cannot be judged from the number of production credits, or suggest that acting classes are not the best way to develop the actor's craft. Let's work through the answer choices in reverse order this time, just in case you started going through the answer choices already. Answer choice E weakens the argument by suggesting that you don't need to take a lot of fancy classes to become the next successful actor. Get rid of E. Answer choice D comes right out and says there's absolutely no connection between an actor's artistic accomplishment and his number of production credits. Okay then, definitely a weakener, and therefore another wrong answer. Answer choice C is interesting. It says that when it comes to developing an actor's craft, the number of classes doesn't matter as much as the quality of those classes. Perhaps an actor who only takes 1 class has done more to develop his craft than an actor who takes 50. This weakens the argument by pushing apart the concepts developing craft and taking tons of classes. Answer choice B is similar to answer choice E. It deepens the gap between recent production credits and artistic success. And it's similar also to answer choice D, in the sense that it comes right at one of the author's assumptions. Answer choices C and E are a bit more subtle as weakeners go. Answer choices B and D are more direct. They bluntly negate the author's assumptions. That leaves answer choice A, which must be the correct answer. And sure enough, the statement in this answer choice talks about the way that the data in the stimulus was collected. The author relied, apparently, on information volunteered by actors. But there's no reason not to do that. Actors are an appropriate source of evidence here, and there's no reason to doubt their credibility. Answer choice A has no effect on either of this argument's assumptions, which makes it the correct answer choice in this weaken except question. When a STEM tells you to pick the answer choice that is not a weakener, the correct answer does not have to be a strengthener. Likewise, when a STEM says strengthen except, then the correct answer could be a weakener, or it could be a statement that has no effect at all on the strength of the argument.